para todos que nos acompanham.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you very much, all of you who are here on the third day of IEX Forum 15, which is part of our Infrastructure Week at NIC.br. Let me make some general initial announcements. We are webcasting in 3 languages. This is something really important. We want to have all the different languages translated for the community to keep up with our announcements. Those of you who are watching us through YouTube, please like our videos.
Quanto maior for o interesse pelos vídeos, mais
So give us a like, because the more it is recognized, the more it is shared by YouTube. Today we are going to hear a number of reports by NIC.br telling us about the activity of IEX.br and the Safer Internet Initiative, and you are going to hear about a new tool, which is UTOP, to validate the use of best practices for everything we do when we are accessing the internet. After the break, we would like to invite all of you to join our virtual platform, Gather Town, because the Black Hole and Talk to IEX will be from the platform. And what is the idea?
A gente consegue simular
From the platform, we can simulate the auditorium. IEX staff will be there on the stage, and those who will ask questions will have a microphone to interact with us. When we are transmitting through YouTube, the questions are asked through the chat. This part, which is going to be generated from the platform, will be streamed through the 3 languages. So if you don't want to join the platform and just see us through YouTube, you can also ask your questions through the chat, as we've done in the other 3 days.
Então é isso, desejo bom dia, que seja bem útil aí para vocês as informações que a gente vai estar passando.
So I hope you have a great day, and we are going to start the first activity of the day. Thank you.
A primeira apresentação do dia vai ser feita...
Our first talk will be delivered by Rodrigo Regis from Activation of IEX.br. We are going to hear from him. Rodrigo, welcome. Good morning. Thank you, Julie, for the introduction. As Julio has just said, we are going to tell you about the activation for the year 2021. Can you all see my screen? So let me start by telling you about our team. There are 7 people in our activation team. They are responsible for answering all the different calls whenever new connections are requested or expansion of connections to IX.br, requests of migration, deactivation, MAC exchange, increase of prefixes. In addition, there is also the support of 5 more people who help us in development and DevOps. They support us with some internal script and software and provide maintenance to our services. Let me share some figures with you. In the first chart, you can see the number of calls opened and closed. Here we have a 3-year overview for comparison reasons. Even though there had been a decrease as of the second half of this year, the total number of open calls and closed calls has been increasing. Up to the end of November, when I generate the data, in 2021, we had seen 6,091 calls. 2,000 more calls if we compare against 2019 and 1,000 more calls compared to 2020. Even with the pandemic, there has been significant and constant increase. Those two charts are used for comparison reasons. Similarly to what Julio shared with us on day 1, here we have the number of open calls for activation of physical ports, and the second chart is the number of activations via CIX or shared ports. So shared port activation had been increasing, whereas the physical port activation seemed to be more stable. Another very interesting point to share with you is the following. Here we can see the number of total tickets open, and it performs very similarly to the number of cases of COVID and deaths by COVID. Well, we haven't got any more, let's say, deeper analysis, but it shows a direct impact from the pandemic, especially because there was a lot of home office, homeschooling because of COVID. So it had a direct impacting number of activation and increase in number of open tickets with IX.br. Concerning the service time, if we compare against previous years, from 2019 on, and there are 2 curves here to analyze. First, activation, expansion, and migration, so how long it takes. And this is something that has been maintained. It's on average 55 to 60 days to have the requests met. And the median is about 35, 40 days. For activation for VLAN, MAC, or prefix, which we call urgent calls, the average time to meet the request is 10 days, and the median is about 5 days. These specific calls of VLAN, MAC, and prefix, we always try to give a response on the same day that the ticket is opened. But sometimes it varies a little bit because in VLAN, we depend on interacting with participants. When a MAC has to be replaced, we have to add the MAC on day one as soon as it's open, but then it's open for a few days until we are absolutely sure it's working. So this is why it increased somewhat our response time. So here we're talking about response time, but we always try to serve our clients as quickly as possible. Let me now emphasize some other activities that we have had. And now we'll update some of the activities for the year. In 2021, we finished the implementation of automated quarantine in all different locations we work. Our team is present in 30 localities of IX.br since November. We are also serving Curitiba and Londrina, which used to be with RNP, the Federal University of Paraná. So since the beginning of November, Curitiba and Londrina is under our responsibility as well. The Looking Glass web is also available in all localities. São Paulo was not part of it at first, but now it has already been included. The only point for analyzing it is that in São Paulo, we are still just seeing data from the route server 4, but we are bringing together data to have Looking Glass data from all different service spots. The most relevant changes that we have observed in 2021 concerned changes in our portal, Meu IX.br, and also in our website. Some changes concerning opening of tickets. We've also made some changes to the submission of data in our main portal. And this year, we also created a website for update of registration data. This is a link to a video that Moreiras prepared on how to make these changes, but I would like very briefly to show you our website, and then you can really have a better understanding of how the changes were implemented. Well, first of all, this is how you can open a ticket at IX.br. No major changes. We have simply changed the name of some of the links so that names were, let's say, more intuitive. We have also changed some processes to bring down the number of errors that participants used to have. Many errors were committed because the flow of messages and the forms available in the website were kind of confused, not very intuitive. So we tried to simplify the whole process to make things easier. When identifying the appropriate link, and also in opening the flow. Another change concerns a new feature. If you go into Cadastro registration, you can update them. You can see your ASN. Of course, I can see them all because I got my admin profile, but here you're going to see the ASN only that you as a user have access to that. Here you have a list of the location to which the IX is, or the ASN is connected to. Participants then can update information. There are 3 or 4 tabs depending on the situation. And let me tell you what they contain. First, we have public information, everything that's going to be provided in ix.br website concerning the connection of the ASN. So name of the organization, short name, URL, and a link to peering policy information, type of activity that the ASN has, and type of services offered in the location where it is connected. Then the second tab contains the contact information, very important tab, and the data have to be constantly updated. So we have administrative, commercial, peering contact person, and also NOC contact person. These data are not visible to the public. This is just for internal use. And finally, the third tab, it contains some information concerning connectivity of the participants in ix.br. These are not required, and they are not going to be made public. This is just for internal use, so that we can have information about connection of our participants to map some characteristics of our members. Based on it, then we can work on improving the system. And the fourth tab is the tab for those participants that act in the IXBR. They allow access to IXBR throughout shared ports. So if you perform in any other scales, you'll be able to input some additional information. If you want to appear in the public page of IXBR, what is your position, what is your field of expertise, etc. Some other changes you'll be able to see at our IXBR portal. We had some terminology changes. At our website, we have the PIX topologies. Before, the terminology was PIXs, and now we have switched that to topology. Here we have the list of participants, but here that is described by locality, by different sites, and those who are active in the service. So to be listed here, the HALT service BGP has to be active. Some additional changes. The ASN number can be searched now. For those of you that had updated your file, now you'll be able to click on the ASN link that will take you to the PeeringDB page. And there are some ASNs with their own pages. If you click over the ASN name, that will take you to the AS page link. And over here, if I click over this column, if the patient is a part of ATM V4 or V6, you'll be taken to the Looking Glass page of that AS, of that site where that person is from. Participants, they will fill out this information to inform if they deliver any commercial services throughout IXBR, if they sell traffic V4, V6, or transport L2 or CIX. And the last column, it's also updated by participants on their registration file, and that is supposed to be the type of entity that company is part of, if that is a governmental company, if it's a CDN, if it's a private company, etc. We have the PIX compliance page. We had that before, but Adhesion was the prior name where you may connect directly to IXBR. And last, we allow now a list of those ASs that allow I6 services at a certain area. So we have the CIX version, and here you have the contact information of those ASs that deliver services at that specific site. Let's say that I have that service available, but my information data is not listed. What to do? You have to go to the file, to the registration file form, and updated your information in the CIX page. And you have to save and inform that you want to have your personal information displayed on the fourth page. Otherwise, you have to get a technical support if you do not manage to do so, and the technical team will help you to update that in their database, and then this page will be available to you, and then you'll be able to update your information, and then you click or you tick the information that you supply the IX service at a certain place. That's it for now. Here you can find my contact information for further questions. Thank you for this opportunity, and I'll be at your disposal. Thank you. Thanks, Rodrigo. Right now, we haven't got any questions, but soon we will start our second presentation of the day.
Dando continuidade ao terceiro dia do Instituto.
Next, to resume our third day of IX Forum 15, I would like to hand over to Eduardo Morales, who will update a number of activities carried out by his team, a number of courses, workshops, network citizens, and Layer 8. Thanks, Julio. Let me share my screen so you can follow my PowerPoint presentation. Can you all see the display all right? Yes. So I would like to promote some of our workshops network citizens and the intra-network and layer 8. Those are some of the projects that we are planning for the coming year. First, I will introduce a 2021 report and some novelties for the coming year. So please be tuned because I will introduce next year's agenda. And if you want to enroll yourself, don't miss this opportunity and you'll be able to participate at some of our courses. Well, we couldn't do much this year as the pandemic was not over, and we decided not to go on physical events, presence events, I should say. So considering some safety measures, we decided to go on with the remote events. So there was none conducted face-to-face, but we continued carrying out our remote courses. The BCOP course continued to be given remotely. Now we are able to throw this course on a platform, a new platform that is the Metaverso platform from GatherTown. This is a new and different way to teach our students. And those students that had a chance to participate a couple of years ago, you can try again because we are full of novelties. We have new exercises in addition to the GatherTown platform. We had a total of 11 workshops this year, and 582 students were certified in our e-learning courses based on best practices. Sometimes our IX participants, they were our former students who learn how to work with IX during our courses. And at the time of any real activation, they are quite skilled and they can do that much easier and simpler. In case you are not yet an IX student, if you hadn't participated yet, that is totally free of charge. Just enroll yourself, and if you are selected, you'll be able to learn a lot and to be able to use the GatherTown platform. Intra-network. This is another possibility where we throw a number of lives. We had a total of over 7,000 views where we had network programming, we had experts in submarine satellites, fiber and radios in the physical layer. We also invited experts in legislation, network management, more directed to managers in a very straightforward terminology. All those aspects that a network manager should know about the legal civil framework, GDPR. That was a very interesting live. We also had a live addressing Internet of Things, thinking about our providers. We also talked about IPv6, some case of success, a total of several lives, very interesting, that were able to foster important discussion, techniques to network operators and internet techniques. I'd like to highlight this live that aim to improve the efficiency of their providers throughout best operational practices. We had a number of consultants that were invited to participate at this live, and take a look. So far, 36,000 views. And our last live of the year will address new standards, norms, technologies, and challenges in the web. What is taking place in the IETF and some international technical forums. That will take place on December 15 at 10 o'clock a.m. That will be on Wednesday. And the idea is to leverage a discussion and also to bring some news about future courses. and we'll probably release a new course that will be announced on this date. So you should not miss it. So we are doing whatever we can to be able to announce this new release on December 15th. So don't miss it. That's just a teaser. So we had a number of sponsors with a super-like share. And I like to highlight all our sponsors because they are very important to our projects. Those that would like to keep supporting us, please don't refrain from doing it. We do count on your support. E-learning courses, we have the basic IPv6 course, also free of charge. That's not a synchronized course, is asynchronized. You can do it according to your free time. You can do it anytime because all the lessons are pre-recorded, and you just have to take the average score, which is 7, and then you'll be entitled to a certificate. We also have a number of introduction, Internet of Things courses, cybersecurity. Cybersecurity is essential with a number of participants. But let me make a piece of observation. Those courses, they will be concluded in a week time, and then a new cycle of courses will be offered by next year. So those of you that have enrolled yourself, you have to go through the tests and exercises in 2 weeks. And new teams will be allowed to enter this new course by next year. If you do not conclude this year's course, you have to start from the very beginning. How about Layer 8 podcast? That is a monthly podcast. Every single month we broadcast a new episode about some technical issue. We have this technical discussion with some specific presenters, but that's quite different from what we do at Intranet. At Intranet, we have a round table discussion with some experts. Here, on the other hand, we invite just one expert and we talk for 1 hour with this technical expert who is invited about one topic. And now we have a new episode, which is to talk about entrepreneurship in the web. And we had already invited 2 people to talk about their journey, how they had created their own company, how they became an entrepreneur in the network field. So this is something new. We had already filmed 2 episodes, and it's good to learn from other people's experiences and journey. And we had over 20,000 plays, 20,000 audios that were played. So please enroll yourself on your platform of preferences so you can keep receiving the new episodes, which are broadcasted monthly, as I said, and you'll be updated about all the novelties. So how about 2021 episodes? We had some retrospective about 2020, and then a router of ideas. We had interviewed network safety with the police officer, Mr. Barreto. We also had a forum Brazil talking about internet exchange. We also had interviews addressing IPv6, IPv4 with Fernando from BPF. We had another talk addressing RPKI, which is a security infrastructure to allow router. We had another interview addressing good best connection practices, traffic peering, sub cables, and then a different episode for those who try to invest in this BGP. New episodes are always released on the second Wednesday of the month, so a new episode will be released next week. The capacity week, this started last year. It takes place every semester where we work technical tutorials, theoretical and practical, that lasts for a week from 9 to 12, and we are on our third edition. And the goal is to make them follow the tutorial and to apply them. This capacity week counted on a number of sponsors, media support. And what have we presented this last semester? We have spoken about FTTH, network, communities, internet providers, advanced security, CDNs, how the main current caches work. And those tutorials, they are very important. Even if the lives they are old, that's not a problem because they are like a class, like a lecture, and it takes a while for them to be outdated. So those lectures, they can be used as reference material for further research and studies. We also applied essential tools for the best use of autonomous systems, network management, NTP, NTS, and Moreira's, while talking about NTS in the infrastructure week, he mentioned about NTP and NTS, and here you find the YouTube link, BNG, BRAS, PPP, OE, and IPOE. And RPKI international guests were invited to present validators. Those who developed RPKI validators. So you are not learning from anyone, you are learning from those who developed the validators. Don't miss it. Virtual exhibition fair. We use the Gather Town platform to help us with that virtual exposition or exhibition that lasted for a week, and now in the infrastructure week, which you are participating, we also have another very interesting project, which is Network Citizen. You had the chance to see some of those brief 15-second videos. Those videos, they give us some hints about the best way to fully deploy the best, correct, responsible use of the internet, how to be a good citizen, how to take the best use of the internet, how not to be fooled by a wrong use of the internet. So we release a weekly video which you may download and replicate it to other people. So within 15 seconds, you will be able to learn something else. It's like an ad. Those who just watch it and listen to it will be able to take something out of it in just 15 seconds. So you may download those videos and share them in your family WhatsApp group. We teach you how to manage passwords. Many people do not know how to work with too many passwords, and you end up replicating the same password, and if there is a leakage that may harm even your bank password connection, and we teach you how to better protect yourselves. So download those videos and replicate that to your employees, to your colleagues, and to your family members as well. Nowadays we have 55 videos, and you have a safety navigation videos. They they consume too much internet broadband. All videos, they come with a mini description and then a complete description. And if you are a teacher, you may read the full description and then give a class about that video. But if you just want to show the video, that's enough because it comes with a brief and a complete information for internet users.
Você pode colocar o seu logo dentro do videozinho. Basta você entrar lá no Cidadão na Rede.
So if you join citizeninthenetwork.com.br, if the logo is approved, then you can download the video and just add your logo in the video. It shows that you are supporting our cause. So you simply get connected because you see more institutions based on that. So we have 177 partners. This week, we launched videos in English and in Spanish. If you are just attending us in Spanish or in English, you can also go into the website, change the language, and then you have the videos in English and Spanish. We launched it this week just for you to use the videos that are available. Let me now talk about the planning for 2022. Online activities will be maintained. They are very successful. Everyone likes it. We get a very good feedback. We are going to have intra-network activities. We are going to maintain our podcast, also distance learning courses. Our page, Citizen in the Network, will also be available. Our courses have all been published. You have the agenda already of all courses. So I'll go BCOP, AD, IPv6. So it's all there and all available. Now, going to the topic of sponsor, let me tell you what we have already planned for 2022. Here you can see our courses. We can see live webinars. Save the dates, please. We are uploading the information into the website. We are going to have the capacity building week when we are going to speak about routing protocols. Every day, some new information about routing protocols. The second half of the year, we are going to have other courses and also the second capacity building week. And this is all available, and you can get hold of the different topics of our live presentation. So please do not forget to save the dates. We are also launching our sponsorship proposition. We have the capacity building week and the intra-network live. So if you have availability to make sponsorship, please come and become sponsors of our online event. If you want to be just part of one live transmission or a live webinar, we have them all here, different packages. So it includes, for example, here you have all the description of what it includes so that you can keep track of it. So great opportunity to all of you to sponsor some of the activities and have your brand linked to our events, which are very respected and have a very high technical level. We expect this year to go back to on-site activities, depending on the variants. We will be back, but we do have some plans, probably to resume with our regional forums on site for regional discussions. We want to go to the 5 different regions, and we want to take the courses to these regions as well. And that has all been published. You can see whether your city has been included, and you can join us. So Center-West in Brasília, then São Paulo, then Manaus. We are going to get to Recife, Belo Horizonte, and Recife. So please join us, and it will be great to be with you. BCOP includes moderation, and you can be part of that. But IX is open to everyone. If you want, you can participate.
Eu queria reforçar aqui que nas edições separadas do
in the separated editions, those who are PIX and 6 in the region will have discounts. As Rodrigo was saying, when you join to be CIS, you do have advantages. If you are CIS and you are in ix.br page, you get discounts. So let's say you are a IXP in Manaus and you want to sponsor a local, rather than paying a full sponsor quota, you can be given a discount, a very significant discount. Because we want to encourage network. Well, I am a CIX, and I can go into the PPT of Manaus, come and join us, come to our data center. And we are offering a discount so that you can help us being a sponsor and at the same time having a chance to be part of our trade show for the participants. We want IXP to grow in the region and that everyone can have better internet. Here we have on-site, including everything, and then online 31. And this is going to be launched for those who have been sponsors in 2021. Because we are launching today the sponsorship information. We are going to get information in our website. I'm just giving you a teaser here so that you can really be aware of that and start sponsoring our events for the next year. Thank you very much. I don't know if there is anything else. And here we have my contact information. Thank you very much, Eduardo. Great presentation. And here we can see the work that you do, so much contact. No questions yet. And we are going to start our next presentation in a few minutes. Thank you.
Dando continuidade ao terceiro dia do
Now, to carry on with the third day of IX Forum 15, I would like now to invite Antonio Marcos Moreiras, who is going to update us on Open CDN project in 2021. Moreiras, you have the floor.
Obrigado, Júlio.
Thank you very much, Julio.
A todos e todas que estão nos acompanhando.
Thank you very much, all of you who are following
Em
us.
primeiro lugar, eu gostaria de reforçar 2 pontinhos, 3 pontinhos que o Rodrigo Regis e o Eduardo Brazão.
I would like to reinforce some points that my predecessors have emphasized.
Sobre o novo cadastro do portal Meu XBR.
First, I would like to talk about the registration of the portal
Vocês atualizem esses
meuix.br. It's important to keep them updated. Well, all information is important. Contact information, IXP and CIX, so commercial CIS, so that you can see that in the main website of our website, so that you can be found by new participants who are trying to come up with alternatives. If you don't update, you are not going to see there. And these are only the CIS that are operative that we show. So you have to be a CIS and active. And this is why the 4th tab is just documented by some specific ones. Even though the process of activation, if you have a physical port, then you can operate with CIX. When you find your first user, your first client of CIS, it's going to open a call and connect to your port. And then we can just run the technical process and the administrative side of formalizing your company. You can still be shown as a commercial CIX. But the tab where the information is kept about ASN, connections, CDNs, the information is essential. It helps us understand about the market, and it helps us make the right decisions when we are really running our projects. Those of you who have joined us, I don't know if I have updated the information. There are something like 60 people in Portuguese, but we also have English and Spanish who are members of ix.br. Just please write down in the chat. But those who are members of ix.br, please complete the information and tell the groups in the WhatsApp group, Facebook, about the importance of updating the registration. Another important part that I would like to emphasize is the page called Citizen in the Network, Cidadão na Rede. All those 15-second videos that are offered are prepared for final users or end users, and they are built on suggestions of the providers. We also added a poll, asked for suggestions, and many of the videos were created based on the suggestions you made. These are videos that you can send to your users, to your support staff, and that's going to help with your explanations. It will help make users understand that sometimes the problem is not the provider, but the infrastructure at home, for example. This is going to help users understand how internet works and really use it better. These are videos that can really help provide support to your users. Videos are available in English and Spanish as well. And we are constantly updating that. Why am I emphasizing it? We are also broadcasting in Spanish and English. And the recommendations and hints in the videos are universal. They are not applicable only to Brazil. So we really wanted to make the contribution by translating the material into English and Spanish. The last point that I would like to emphasize, based on what Rodrigo and Eduardo have said, concerns the sponsorship. Once our events become on site again, we will hold them to learn more about the market, about the Brazilian market, regional markets. And this is why we have regional events, one in Manaus, in Recife, in Brasília, Belo Horizonte, Curitiba. We want to learn about the IXP in the regions. And CIX and PIX that helps us maintain the internet exchange in the region in full operation. Having them there with us is essential because that's going to encourage more businesses. PIX can talk about their structure, CIX as well. They'll tell about where the networks are, so they can use the webinar or the forum to networking. So this is why we are offering very affordable sponsorship quotas. These are not commercial events. They are not a source of income to us. It's rather an opportunity to gather more people and discuss infrastructure. This is why I'm emphasizing it so much. Let me now share my screen. And I'm going to report OpenCDN for this year. Just 1 second, and I'll share my screen.
Pronto, acredito que vocês já estejam...
I believe you can all see my screen now.
Se tiver alguém aí acompanhando a transmissão e for usuário do OpenCDN...
If you are a user of OpenCDN and you are with us, please let me know. Write down in the chat if you are a user of OpenCDN in Salvador or in Manaus. Please let me know. OpenCDN is an initiative connected with IX.br, where we have shared infrastructure, We have a data center, a cache structure, and we invite CDNs to add more caches into the structure. So this is an autonomous system, ASN, connected to the PPT, to the IXP that we manage here at NIC.br. And we hold a data center, and we have a partnership, so to speak, that gives access to a data center. We have a link or partnerships that give access to that. So CDN adds a cache there, as it were in a regular provider, and the infrastructure is connected to IX. And we run BGP bilateral sections with the other participants of the IXP. Of course, it's not something automatic. You have to opt to join us because the infrastructure has a cost, and the cost is then shared by all participants. So all participants that join the system can use the caches of the CDNs that have joined the initiative.
Today, we have operations in Salvador and Manaus. Let's then take a look at some of this data. Salvador, we have participant CDNs, Akamai, Asian, Global, Google, Netflix. We have a number of active direct users, 31 ASs, which participate at Salvador's PTT, and they also participate at the Open CDN, a total of 189 indirect ASs. They are clients of our direct participants. So in the route tables of the Open CDN routers, we have 31 plus 189 ASs announcing prefixes to those CDNs. So we serve over than 200 ASs directly or indirectly in Salvador via Open CDN. We have 104 ASs in Salvador and 240 ASs 80 kilometers away from Salvador. We still have some room for improvement at Open CDN or PTT. We charge 150 megabytes per second. This is a quite attractive amount, which is not quite enough to cover all our operational costs. Nick.br does not have any profit with that, and that's not the idea. We want to cover our costs and to reach a balance, even expenses. We are very close to reach such a even balance, but still Nick.br had invested to cover the data center and the link costs to have all the cash expenses covered, and we would like to share that with our participants. And the goal is to reduce our costs. Here we have the number of participants. We have those peaks that they go up and then down. Right in the beginning of the Open CDN operations, that was free of charge. And then in the beginning of the pandemic, we had an increasing number of participants because that was totally free. And then we had a drop in the number of participants. Many participants, they complain about the absence of Facebook. They wish they would have Facebook available at Salvador, but we have no control whatsoever about that. We wish we would have Facebook, but so far Facebook does not want to participate. We cannot force or oblige them to participate. We depend on the CDNs. We depend on their wish to participate. Sometimes the Open CDN faces a number of problems, such as some sort of instability of Akamai, and we end up depending on the CDN and how they operate their caches for full operation. Here we have some joint actions, and we are going towards that solution. I believe that Akamai nowadays is stable in Salvador, but we still have some other things to do to allow a better servers exchange for servers that have a higher hit rate. Servers with a more recent software, we have that forecasted for the coming year. There are some other additional initiatives or measures to improve that situation. We also have in Salvador a market with some connections with a reasonable cost to São Paulo and Fortaleza. So people, sometimes they prefer to search for a content at IXP of Fortaleza or any other provider. They search for the lower cost operation, and sometimes they might have a solution that may add a better technical solution to their end users. And that may represent a challenge. How can we convince them to search for content at local provider, which represents an advantage in terms of quality? What are we after in 2022? We are reducing costs. We want to change our cash, new partnerships that will allow us to do it. And we have some actions to stable Akamai, and would like to make to have some meetings with them. Would like to have some individual meetings to be able to talk about the use of those providers with the CDN, or even those providers that still do not use that, to better understand the market and to know how can we better collaborate to allow better content access. Manaus, that's the second site where we participate. And Global, Google, and Netflix are the participant CDNs, active users, 30. And there are another 38 indirect users. 30 are the participants of Manaus IXP, that they also participate at the Open CDN. 38 are clients of those participants. We have a total of 68 ASs at Manaus Open CDN. At Manaus IXP, we have 54 participants, 41 before the Open CDN, and 69 ASs 80 kilometers away from IXP. So we understand that there is a growth potential in the number of ASs, and there is a opportunity for some of those ASs to connect directly to IXP, and they are not connected. They are indirectly coming from other providers, but there is a potential for existing number of ASs. And we do know that the number of providers is also higher than autonomous systems, where we see an opportunity for some companies and providers to become ASs. How about the value that is a bit higher as the infrastructure in Manaus costs more? And because the number of participants is about the same, and the traffic amount is smaller than in Salvador. And links to Manaus, they are much more expensive. Internet and transportation, links to feed caches, they are much more expensive. So cost sharing, it's more expensive. And NEC.br has that financed. That's why we may practice that 250 megabits per second in Manaus. But we invest a great share of money to cover links payment, internet links payment. We expect that by increasing the number of participants and CDNs, the traffic will be improved. What sort of challenges to face? Today, the absence of other CDNs, such as Azure, Facebook, and some instabilities that we face in the circuit, and a backup of the main circuit that is trying to add stability to the service. And I'd like to thank Public RNP that has been a great collaborator in this initiative of the Open CDN to help us in the beginning of this initiative in each one of the localities where we are operating. But in Manaus, they are adding stability to the project as a whole. We expect that Akamai will install caches in 2022. We have some ongoing advanced dialogue with them, as we have no control of what they do or what they do not do or what they don't do. But this is the expectation we have in mind. What else? What else have we got for Manaus? Dialogue to other CDNs and also meetings with the providers. What else? Brasilia. We are not operating there yet. We might start operating Brasilia by the end of 2021 and January 2022. We are doing whatever we can to start the operation in December 2021, possibly with the Netflix caches followed by Google caches. Both CDNs have confirmed so far their participation. In Brasilia, IXP, we have 114 ASs, and Goiânia IXP is very close, and we have been talking to several companies that participate at Brasilia and Goiânia IXP to design shelf products of transportation between Goiânia and Brasilia. So those guys from Goiânia, in addition to be connected to Goiânia IXP, they can also connect it to Brasilia IXP and make use of the CDNs, not only the open CDNs, but of those who are already directly connected to Brasilia IXP. Who have we got so far at Brasilia? Akamai, for instance, Twitch, Globo.com.
Do governo lá, o SERPRO e outras que
in addition to some others that add interesting services and content. So Brasilia IXP, in addition to have a strategic geolocation, privilege, central, it has lots of present content, and OpenCDN will be in Brasilia just to increment a situation which is favorable. So we do hope to speed up the growth of Brasilia IXP and attract more providers and more content.
praticado lá vai ser também de 1,50 megabit por segundo, mesmo
the amount is 1.50 megabits per second. So those who are connected in Brasilia or Goiânia or from this region, be tuned, pay attention. Soon we will start operating there.
Eu acho que era isso daqui. Só enfatizando aqui. Dois pontos, não, um ponto, que o Vinícius do Netflix já colocou.
Well, Vinicius from Netflix showed that, addressed that in his presentation. Netflix has developed a solution to be present at IXP and similar solutions to the OpenCDN. And that involves a greater control by Netflix about those who would like or not to get their traffic. How does that work? Well, the OpenCDN participants that would like to get Netflix traffic have to announce their prefix to a specific community that OpenCDN routers will give back to Netflix, which is the community 40,027. Vinicius gave that detail yesterday. This is a recent.
Manaus entrou assim. Salvador, a gente está migrando os servidores do Netflix.
Manaus is migrating Netflix servers so they may operate like that. That was a demand by Netflix, and those who are not announcing that community at the OpenCDN, that's just valid for the OpenCDN, is not valid for São Paulo or Rio de Janeiro, where Netflix is directly at the OTM directly. But the OpenCDN, Brasilia, Manaus, or Salvador, We have to announce that community, otherwise you will not get the Netflix traffic, and we cannot add that community to you. That has to be done at the source, at the origin. We are totally transparent. The OpenCDN infrastructure is transparent to communities, and that should be an initiative of the autonomous systems of the connected provider to feel like getting the Netflix content and to get community as part of the BGP announcement.
Temos aí pergunta, Júlio?
Moreira, a gente tem duas perguntas,
We
mas eu
have
acho
two questions, Moreiras, but let's save them to the session talk to IX. These are more questions regarding infrastructure, so we can have the interval, the break, according to our agenda, okay? Thanks, Moreiras. So we shall be back in a few minutes. Thank you.
Dando continuidade ao Eixes Fórum 15, da Semana de Infraestrutura Internet.
Well, and still along our agenda, I would like to give the floor to Gilberto Zorello, who will talk about an initiative called Safer Internet and a new tool that we are releasing. You have the floor.
Eu sou Gilberto Zorello, coordenador de projetos.
I am a project coordinator for NIC.br.
Deixa eu compartilhar aqui nos slides. Hoje eu vou falar sobre uma atualização do programa e uma nova iniciativa.
Today I'm here to talk about the program and a new initiative, which is the standard.
Sobre o programa.
Here is the agenda. I'll talk about the program, the initiative, the development of the program, and then I'll go into details about the top test, which is a test that aims to understand all the standards. So the reason, what is that, who should perform it, and what is that for? That program that aims to have a safer internet that was released by CGI and NIC.br. The goal was to improve routing services in the network, to reduce attacks, and to motivate the growth of a culture of safety among network developers.
Uma visão de como que a gente enxerga esse programa, tá? Quer dizer, nós partimos de uma...
We start from a principle of a network that has a number of DOS attacks and hijacks to be able to have a safer network that will embrace a number of actions adopted by many. And by that, I mean to help developers to correct existing problems, to design educational materials, implementing best practices, to organize lectures and workshops to our community, to define and establish some indicators such as safety indicators and IX filters to be implemented. The program action, that is a cross-section work conducted by NIC.br that worries about all these projects, workshops and training, didactic materials, best practice, the traffic IXB.br that aims to implement, started in São Paulo, and now IXBR is spreading all over the country, a number of filters to catch invalid traffic that cannot go through IX, and the BR registry, which is in charge by NIC.br, such as our .br that is carried out by our service CETIC.br. Thanks to a number of workshops, we are able to implement all these actions. We also are able to define our KPIs.
What about the interaction with the different internet providers? We have bi-monthly meetings with small and mid-sized providers. Depending on the IP addresses that are being notified, I try to get in contact with operators to hold a meeting where we talk about the best practices that could be adopted in the network. I have a number of KPIs that are collected from different internet tools, and we discuss in details what can be done to improve safety elements. And we have implementing our RPKA in large providers. We've been supporting larger providers to implement our PKI in the networks. In these meetings that I have with providers, there are two main topics: IP addresses being notified whenever there is an attack of DDoS. As of October, a new service is also used where it indicates a botnet infection, and also the adoption of MARIS by providers. Here we have some data. In the beginning, the largest providers at 80% of notified IP addresses, 80% in the screen chart, and orange we have small and mid-sized providers and corporate ISPs. Throughout time, with the action of the program, there had been some progression. Largest providers have corrected their problems within the period of 1 year. But since then, problems which are part of the network are solved. So the problems now lies with their clients. So we're working with them to develop processes so that they can interact with their clients and correct or solve the problems. For small and mid-sized providers, situation is somewhat different. It started with fewer notified IPs, and as of March 19, we adopted a new service and things were then solved. We see here a trend of decrease, and this is the action that we have with the providers in submitting notifications and reports and the interaction we have with them. Here we can see the services which are normally notified. For small and mid-sized providers, we have primarily an SNMTP and DNS, and for larger operators, NTP. If we just fix the problem with those three main services, we would have a significant reduction. The program, as we have it, it's important to say, it is under control. We have a large number of IP addresses. There is a 5% decrease on a monthly basis. There had been no significant growth, which means the program is providing a very good control. What about manners? It is an action of Internet Society. There are 4 important recommendations focused on safety of routing, BGP filters of ASN networks, anti-spoofing filters that we have addressed extensively here, the importance of having anti-spoof filters in the different networks, so that there wouldn't be DDoS attacks to other networks, to the benefit of everyone. Avoiding attacks to occur, and also preventing potential victims. 4, it's a contact point. A very important action is that email addresses of abuse are being updated, and this is also important. And finally, the 4th action, which is to have a RR&R PKI routing policy publication. Here we have some update on the 4 actions: filtering, and this is the action in November, and this is last year. So in terms of filtering, the results are the same. These are all from Manners Observatory. So everything fine. And spoofing, part of the networks not implementing or not testing it. Coordination, we also need to have some improvement there. Global validation IRR. It's just within a very acceptable range. What we've been interacting with and saying with ASN, especially smaller ones, it's okay, but some of them are published by the traffic, and we ask ASN to manage that themselves, to start managing that themselves. And for finally, global validation RPKI, last year, the adoption was of only 6%, and now it's 12%. There's been an interest in growth, but we still needed to keep on spending. This is a distribution per country of the participants in Manners Initiative. In Brazil last year, there were 140 ASN, now 174. Brazil amounts to 28% of participants in the program. Then here, followed by US. So Manners is widely adopted in Brazil, thanks to training and all the actions that NIC.br holds towards a safer internet. This is our program website. And let me now tell you about TOP, Test of Patterns or Standards. It is a tool that is now being provided. It was launched last Tuesday. And we hope the community can embrace the use of this tool to improve setup of site and email services provided to the community, and also improving internet connections. Internet is in constant change to keep on growing and supporting new services. This is what we want, isn't it? We want internet to keep on expanding. To do that, we need standardized protocols, which are very current. Standardized protocols used in the internet, they have new versions, but not everyone is aware of them. So the program wants to share that knowledge with the technical public and also end users. Will end users be familiarized with internet protocols? This is not the idea. End users are going to use a tool to know whether the service being used is fine or not. The technicians will use the tool to detect problems that clients might have. So the tool will be used to identify problems, make the required repairs, and make sure that it's working fine. The top tool tries to show the importance of new standards and its adoption to reduce the internet threats and providing really greater expansion. So the tool is used to check whether the internet is really complying with the most recent open standards of internet. And it checks whether website, email, or internet connection comply with the most reliable and updated internet technical standards. It tells the user whether the standards are being followed or not. And it was adapted from Internet.nl, which is an initiative from the Dutch Internet Standards Platform. It was developed by NMET Labs, which also developed CRIL. It was first provided in 2015. It is a tool that has been used for many years now. Very stable, dependable software. We used Core, which is an open source software. So Core is the drive of the tool. And an interface was created to reach the technical public and the final users in Brazil. So this is our reasoning in the project. You can use this link. Just include your domain or website or email, or just test your connection. And then you will see the implementation of IPv6 or IPv7. It's very easy. Once you run the tool, you get a score. And the score will indicate if the website or the service is compliant or not with the best and most accurate standards. It does not mean the website is safe, not that. It just shows whether the website is adopting the best practice. If it's adopting the best practice, it's much safer than those that not. This is the idea of this tool.
Dessa ferramenta. Tá? Bom, os padrões técnicos originais da internet datam da década de 70 e 80. Atualmente existem.
We know that the original technical standards date from the 70s and 80s, and today, users use much more sensitive information, and we know the old standards do not really meet the needs of the current internet. So when SMTP, for example, it allows faking the email address. So it's very easy to have email spoofing. So we have really to update our standards. And the good news is there are available reliable standards. And now this is a tool to help us measure that. The tool is used to facilitate to technicians and to end users compliance with best practices. So who should be involved? Well, obviously, service providers who should correct their platforms so that they can provide services which are compliant with best practices. And end users who may use the tools to check how the service is being used and talk to providers to correct the course of the products. This tool is not going to simply detect problems. No, the idea is to help the community solve problems. This is what we have in mind, help providers address problems and share information with providers. They have to be aware of the importance of adopting best practices. So the system just assesses the website, email, or internet connection, provides a score, and the final score reflects how tests and subtests are compliant with best practices. It provides a very detailed report with everything that is detected by the platform. It also includes general information for lay people so that they can always open a call or open a ticket with their providers. So here we have some information about the report. The test will just be graded by good, fair, or if just deserves warning, or if there is any information about or recommendation. Whenever the task gets a 100% score, the task gets into this ranking. It's available for domains as website and as emails. Those who score 100% in both go in the so-called champion top rankings. Those who have 100% score can get our logo, the logo of the program. It means 100% compliance with the best practices. So that seal will indicate that. Those hosting providers can use a specific seal provided that the website and the email have reached 100% score, and the hosting of website and email also reaches 100% compliance. So there is a communication channel in the website. If you reach 100% score, just share with us. We will analyze, and then we will grant authorization to use the seal. This is a list of all the tests that are run by website, email, or connection, IPv6, DNCSAC, HTTPS, IPv6 for email, DNSAC, DMARC, DKIN, SPF to detect email spoofing, and StarTLS. and for connection, DNS, SAC, and IPv6. So use TOP as a tool to help you correct the setup of the service provider. And with that, let us help improve internet infrastructure safety. Those 7 organizations are supporting us. They are associations of providers, and RNP, which is our partner in many different programs. Thanks to this support, we expect to take this message to the whole community and most internet users. This is the website, as I told you. And if you have any questions, please let us know. I don't know if we have any question, but feel free to ask them. Thank you, Gilberto. There is one comment by Henri Alves Godoy saying that even though TOP provides hints, it would be interesting to offer webinars to help correct the website based on recommendations. Could you please make some comments about what the website already provides in terms of information to try to solve problems?
Okay, let's see. As I said before, we have just released this new tool. We are talking to the CEPROS team to see what we can do and how can we take that to the community throughout their several channels. So that's under discussion. The website has a number of information. First, it addresses a number of test categories: IPv6, age, TTPS. It shows what are those technical references in use that is available in the reference list. After each one of the tests, or to each one of the subtests, as we call it, we open it and there is an explanation about what has been tested, what are the references that are being used in each one of the subtests, and what were those parameters met in case of a problem. There is a description of the problem met with a table with technical information. And the cryptography updated, all that information is presented. I mean, the website has with it a number of information about best practices, and it details in each one of the tests what has been done, how, what they have met, what has been found, and how can that be corrected. So this is how we initially communicate to our technical public. And we aim to reach our end user. What is the promotion strategy with this website? Well, we started before promoting that on Tuesday. When we started talking to entities, we got some support with large carriers that are in contact with us for some meetings, dialogues, and those associations that will help us to reach a number of providers. Next week, we'll have a presentation at the National Bank Association. And now that we are talking with this technical public here in the IX Forum, That is the main public in the infrastructure week. And later on, we will have a communication strategy in place to our end users. How can we get prepared for that? We know that some services, they run into obstacles. So we are given some time to get prepared before we open to the great media and to the end user. So we opened first in a macro perspective. Now it's a technical approach, and in the future to the end consumer with no impact, having in mind the problems corrections. This is our objective, to help the unit to solve any possible problems that you may have at the web. Well, thanks a lot. Our time is up, so we are going to have 10 minutes coffee break, and please be back at 5 to 11. 10:55. So if you can get to the GatherTown platform, access it. Where we'll be addressing the next topic from the platform, followed by talk to IX, and those who will be connected in the platform will have a chance to talk directly to the IXBR team. So see you again in 10 minutes at the GatherTown platform.
A internet é formada por milhares de organizações e empresas diferentes e independentes. Para que funcione em perfeita harmonia, elas precisam se interligar e colaborar. Há locais com infraestrutura que facilita essa interligação e colaboração de muitas formas. Podemos considerar esses locais como pontos neutros, em que diversas organizações, mesmo concorrentes, estão juntas para interligar sua tecnologia e trocar tráfego, trocar pacotes de dados e internet entre si. Por isso, essas infraestruturas são chamadas de pontos de troca de tráfego, ou Internet Exchange Points em inglês, ou simplesmente PTTs, IX, IXPs ou IX. Os Internet Exchanges são formados por data centers com equipamentos especiais que permitem a interligação simultânea de dezenas ou centenas de organizações. Empresas que fornecem acesso à internet estão interligadas com empresas de streaming de vídeo, com sites de busca, redes sociais, bancos, universidades, órgãos do governo, entre tantas outras. Essa união em um só local de tantas redes com serviços complementares traz diversos benefícios, inclusive a você que está assistindo este vídeo. A internet fica mais veloz, eficiente, resistente a falhas e com custo mais baixo. Sem os Internet Exchanges, as informações, os bits que trafegam pela internet teriam que percorrer caminhos bem mais longos. Isso faria a internet ser lenta, mais suscetível a falhas e cara. Hoje, quem cria e opera aqui no Brasil Internet Exchanges neutros, abertos a todos, confiáveis, sem finalidade de lucro, com profissionalismo, excelência técnica e seriedade, somos nós, do NIC-BR. O NIC-BR é uma entidade privada e sem fins de lucro. Além de sermos responsáveis pelo registro dos domínios .br, investimos em diversas ações para o desenvolvimento da internet no Brasil. A criação e operação
Vamos dar continuidade ao IX Forum 15 da semana de
Well, let's then resume our IX Forum 15, which is part of NIC.br Infrastructure Week. Next activity will be broadcasted from our virtual platform, GatherTown. I would like to hand over to Moreiras that will make a presentation about Black Hole at IX and at the universe. If you need my support, here I am, Moreiras.
Eu já estou aqui na plataforma do GatherTown.
Here I am at GatherTown platform.
Pronto, eu estava com um pouco de microfonia aqui, eu acho que...
I had some feedback in my audio, but I think now it's much better. Can you all hear me all right? Give me an okay over the chat or YouTube if you can all listen to my audio fine. And how about the image? Is everything fine?
A microfonia deu tempinho, eu acho que eu já...
Yes, I had a bit of feedback. We might have some sort of delay, but I think we are doing fine. I think we may start then. Everything's fine with the audio and the visual image. So I'm here in the GatherTown, so you can get used to it and you may enter the platform. And our next activity that will be after the formal session, you'll be able to participate at this networking session where you can ask your questions directly over the microphone. So during my presentation, if you feel like doing it, just get into our platform. The link is available at the YouTube chat and also at our agenda. You'll be able to get the link access and get prepared to our next networking activity.
Agora eu vou fazer aqui a apresentação sobre os black holes.
In the meanwhile, I will start with my black hole presentation.
Tudo certo aqui. Segundinho.
The platform also allows to share screen.
Compartilhando
Black hole
IXBR. Pronto.
At IXBR.
Eu coloquei em full screen, acho que vocês estão vendo aí em full screen.
You can see the info screen, infographic screen. What I see is a bit different from what you see, but I can also follow this presentation over the YouTube on my cell phone. So everything is fine. A black hole in the IX.br. This is a very hot topic that has been discussed in the past online and in the past presence meetings we had. What is a black hole? Black hole is understood by the general relativity, where the space and time, it is the gravitational field that is so intense that nothing and no particle or radiation, electromagnetic radiation, such as light, may escape from it. That is an old concept addressed by John Mitchell, who used to say that there were those large black stars where light could not escape from those lights, from those big stars. And Einstein has confirmed that throughout the electromagnetic definition, but that was just a hypothesis. They were not quite sure if that was the fact or not. But later on, those black holes, they were confirmed, and it was said that they exist, and there is a black hole, a supermassive black hole in the center of the elliptic galaxy. That was the Messier 87, which is 7 billion fold bigger than the sun mass. That image was obtained by a telescope in 2019. That seems to be a horizon shadow event seen by the telescope. That picture represents a space much, much bigger than the whole solar system. The sun would be just a tiny little spot in the middle of this image. And in the star galaxy, there is also a black hole, which has been already proved and is called as Sagittarius A. And what's the relationship of that black hole in the galaxy to the black hole in the IX? The black hole that we know from the physics that attracts the whole mass and the matter, also the black hole in the IX will attract all the traffic that will not reach its destiny, and we do it to mitigate attacks. And although I stated that it attracts all the traffic that may be applied for individual participants in specific additional communities. Besides the black hole community, I may announce that IP prefix to a specific participant with an aid of an additional community. So the whole traffic may be a relative, may have a relative meaning. How beneficial it is to apply a black hole during an attack? Well, that traffic is interrupted. And what is the problem to use it? Because the traffic is also interrupted. Come on, benefits and problems, they are similar. Yes, indeed. You are suffering a DDoS attack to some specific IP addresses. If you interrupt such an attack, that may be beneficial because you release the network infrastructure, that link that could no longer put up with that traffic, that border fail any point of your infrastructure that was a bottleneck and could no longer cope with the traffic. It will once again be able to put up with it because that traffic will no longer get there. But conversely, you are doing exactly what the attacker would like you to do, which is to remove that service or that website from the air. By performing a black hole, you are interrupting the traffic, not only the attack traffic, but the whole traffic to that specific service. In some situations, of course, if you identify that most of your attack comes from a certain peering within the IXP or a certain foreigner AX, and you are able to activate the black hole just for that specific AS, you may block just partial traffic, and the risk will be still active in the IP to all other IXP participants. That may be a partial interruption, but generally we are talking a more general black hole interruption. Where you release your network to that infrastructure which has been attacked, but at the same time it replicates that attack and interrupts the service from the air, but not all users and not the whole network simultaneously. And then sometimes that may be used. Black holes in the universe, at their core, they have what they call gravitational singularity. This is a curvature where there is a time-space becomes infinite, like when you divide by zero. You keep dividing by zero, and you can no longer keep dividing because mathematics can no longer keep going. And the same applies here when the physical law breaks down the relationship relativity theory no longer applies. Equations are not able to keep going. And if you try anything else, there is a theory of the quantum gravity where people try to understand what happens within singularity. But so far, there is no universal theory which is widely accepted and which is able to map what really takes place in the black hole. And what is the relationship to our IX black hole? Some of our best practices, they also collapse, they also break down. Therefore, we do need different rules. We need different BGP filters, both at IX network and also at our participant networks. How is it? Well, to have an active black hole, participants, they have to accept prefixes /128 IPv6 and /32 IPv4 announced by the route services with the community of black holes. So those two prefixes, 128 and /32, are not usually accepted, and they are not prefixes that you have applied in the RPKA rules and which are usually announced to the internet. But in case of black hole, we just ignore whatever it is in the RPKI and we accept those prefixes if they come from the route services. And if the community wants that to run in the IX, they have to allow that to be routed in their services. And how about the router servers? They have to accept those prefixes /128 and /32 IPv6 and 4 announced together with the black hole community. And by the time that the route servers will hand over those prefixes, they change the IP next hop to a ix.br network IP. Route servers, they just accept prefixes /128 IPv6 and /32 IPv4, which belong to those .br IP registers. Those who are able to announce a black hole prefix are just those ASs that got the .br allocation registration, and there is a definition of allocation for that same organization with that same AS. There is like a link between the AS and the .br allocated registry. And prefixes, they belong to those ASs which are directly connected to IX. It's useless to have that connection and to be a transit client from IXP client participant. The source AS should be the neighbor AS, an AS which is directly connected to IX. Those are safety rules implemented in the route server, and just in those two situations, 128 and 32, will be accepted by the black hole community. The next hope IP that is given to participants by the route server, that is mapped by the MAC address register to IXBR, and that may be blocked by an ACL in all switches. Once a traffic is directed to that next hop, that is removed in the first switch where that participant that is connected to that attack traffic, that is removed right away. It does not even get within the computational IXBR matrix. That is removed and disposed right away. Let's try to understand it from a infographics perspective. Let's suppose the following situation. We have AS and ASA that is being attacked, and there is an IP that was a victim of an attack, and that is being attacked.
E ele está com esse problema, quer mitigar esse ataque.
And the problem is, the attack has to be mitigated. Step 1. Inform the prefix, just one single IP, 128 or 32 IPv4, no other prefixes are accepted. With the black hole community, it is applied to Hout server. So, what is the next step? The Hout server will check safety. This AES and this prefix were allocated by BR. Are they connected in the BR registry? The AES that generated the information, is it a directed participant of the IXP? Is it similar to the neighbor of the Hout server, router server? So it will accept the profile and share with the additional participants. But considering a different next hop, it's not going to indicate the router A, but to an IP of IXP.br. For an IP which does not represent any router or specific service, but the neighbor is solved with IPv6 and it's mapped to a MAC address which is blocked by an ACL. All suites of IX.br. Step 3, then, is that participants, in this example ASB and ASC, they accept the route. They should have in their filters so that the routes 128 and 32 have to be accepted. They accept, install. The traffic of the attack to that attacked IP is then sent through the new next hop IP, mapping to the MAC address which is blocked. So the traffic becomes blocked right at the R2 commuting matrix at IX.br. It's already in operation in Campinas and in Victoria. In the beginning of 2020, it will be active in all different locations. Let me make an important warning to you. Participants have to change the configuration to accept prefix bar 128 and bar 32 with the community of black hole of router service. If you don't do it, the black hole is not going to work in this topology as we implement it. And I think the engineering team would not be able to come up with anything better. We cannot put it in operation without the collaboration of participants. Please change your rules and accept these prefixes, these different next hop routes for traffic to be blocked. In addition to implementation of IX done by us, it needs a change of rules by all participants. We need your collaboration. We need the collaboration of all participants of IX.br to do it. That's it. Thank you. Júlio? Well, I hope you can all hear me. No, we can hear you. In Zoom, at least.
Tem que tirar o mute no GatherTown, Júlio.
Pronto, agora deve estar me ouvindo.
Não, continua em mudo. Bom, gente, tem alguma dúvida aí enquanto
Questions, anyone, while Júlio is setting it up?
O Marcelo
Márcio,
não sei pronunciar, Márcio, desculpa, está perguntando.
He is asking in the chat.
Não sei responder.
Where are the slides?
Gente, se vocês tiverem, se alguém quiser fazer pergunta.
If you want to ask a question here in the Gather Town platform,
Microfone vindo na parte aqui de dúvidas.
just get to the point where there is the sign of a microphone, and then you can simply open and ask that. Can you all hear me?
Só subir aí, entrar dentro do onde tem a cornetinha e falar. O Eduardo Pontes, acho que vai fazer.
I think Eduardo Pontes will ask a question. Eduardo? Hello, Moreiras. Can you all hear me? Yes, we can hear you. And you are live in YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn. Okay. About the black hole, do you expect to add one more item in the quarantine to run test to know whether the provider is accepting /124/128/34? Good question, which I do not know the answer for it. We haven't thought about that, so I'll see it as a suggestion. We haven't got prepared to do it, at least for now. But I think it does make sense. We need some test modality so that we can have some possibility of making verification. Maybe you can announce a prefix and then have the black hole community, so we test for all the specific prefix, even in the production level. But I think that for quarantine, things are much easier. It's a good idea. Yeah, let's do it. That's something I thought about, especially for those who are joining. They are adopting this best practice of the quarantine because if it brings a benefit against DDoS attacks, it means it's good. Douglas Fisher. Hello, how are you? Can you all hear me all right? Yeah, it's okay. I apologize, it's really noisy. I'm at the airport. First, let me thank you for keeping on asking us to do things and building up on the suggestion that was made. I would like to tell you about the continuing quarantine mechanisms of validation and of behaviors of participants in a recurring way. I mean, constantly validating RP or revalidation of filters or for black hole. So a EAS that announces black hole, which is going to test and see if the participant's filter is properly set up. Have you ever thought about that? Of having something along these lines? Thank you very much for the opportunity. Maybe Julio or Galvão can answer that better than I, because it's something more of production, more for engineering, really. But there are some verifications in the production network from different points that are tested during the quarantine and activation. And there is a procedure of notifying AES and sometimes even excluding them from the production network and take them back into quarantine when any protocol is violated. In my opinion, I think it would be good if we could implement that to deal with black hole filters, not something that would, of course, compromise the work of the participants, but at least to have them be able to test. Julio, Galvão, anything else? I think it would be good if we could mute Douglas. I think that the main difficulty of this kind of action, first, false positive. Problems that may cause the deactivation and the exclusion of participants from production. We've discussed it extensively. I think we should give some more thought to it and see how we can identify possible problems. Once we do it, maybe we would have to put them into quarantine and then run tests. As a suggestion, the idea of validating the appropriate filter of black hole for participants. Well, it should be non-invasive. Okay, maybe you can reserve a block and then randomly you announce a bar 128 or 34. Something brief, really. And what we suggest for continuing quarantine, I do not mean of course, false positive is something absolutely understood. I have had similar situations, but it's not a definite solution in the first process. We know through manners that one of the requirements of a good network provider is to be paying attention to communication channels. If it's someone who has an abnormality in its behavior at IX, and emails have been sent for a whole week and there is no reaction, the person is in non-compliance, right? So good quality networks are not going to experience that. If they got one first alert, a whole week, well, come on, you have to do something about it. So once again, thank you very much. This is my request to you. Thank you. Thank you, Douglas. I think with that we can close for the black hole presentation, and in few minutes we are going to resume with talk to IX, and then we keep on chatting here. Okay, be right back.
Dando continuidade ao X Fórum 15, na Semana de Infraestrutura.
Well, just calling you and here inviting you to join us from Gather Town platform. We are going to start now a session that we call Talk to IX. The idea is to talk directly with our community. Questions may be asked directly through the platform. There are two microphones. They are close to the stage, and you can come and ask your questions. Or maybe you can ask your questions through the chat of YouTube. And I think it will be Eduardo who is going to go over the questions for the team to answer them. Julio, there is one question by Rubens Can a member of IX have a sinkhole just setting up those routes? Well, yes. You can receive the announcements of a black hole community and then have an internal filter to decrease that. You can do that. If I really understood, of course, your question, it is possible to do it. Now, complementing somewhat this question of a quarantine and the black hole community acceptance, well, this is a decision of each autonomous system. We will probably not be able to consider as mandatory to have communities with bar 128 or 34 through autonomous systems. This is an individual decision, and we cannot do it. But the best practice is to consider really receiving it, right? Because otherwise, this black hole mechanism won't be as effective as expected. Another thing that we have to consider as a unit is to think that not all autonomous systems participate in ATM. We really have to see how we are going to work with that. And those who are generating the traffic won't be receiving this markup announcement. I think Frediani got close to the microphone. And Fischer. Frediani, any questions from your side? Hello, good morning. Too low, too low. Please speak up. Is it any better? During the analysis to implement this functionality of black hole and IX, did you consider the possibility of accepting prefix greater than bar 32 up to bar 25 or slash 25? And have you got to any analysis of accepting downstream prefix? And if you did that, have you come up with any negative point? Any reason for it not to be part of this moment? Well, there are a number of issues that we have really analyzed and that we want to go as controlled and as safe as possible. Only accepting from participants directly connected, not from downstream, it is something that is really checked in our solution. And we can activate or deactivate that. Probably, we are going to deal with that shortly. Concerning the different blocks, there is no technical, nothing preventing it from a technical perspective. It's just a safety issue of analyzing what is the risk of having it more inappropriately used. That's quite interesting. The court has already implemented that, the TRS. So if you announce the whole network that is not maybe being used within your network, you may facilitate and you may do that in your downstreams
and you may improve that type of attack. It would be very interesting if you configure that in accordance, but the main aspect are the content providers that they generate more attacks than those that are responsible for cloud, for hosting cloud. There are those of you that have contact with them, maybe you would stimulate them to configure them to blockage that traffic in such a way. Thank you.
Peço desculpas porque eu estava comendo, porque eu estou no aeroporto aqui, né? Eu só queria fazer comentário a respeito do que o Júlio colocou.
I have a comment to make about the free will to the autonomous systems to be able to participate or not to the black hole system. That is fully acceptable. But there are some companies in the world and they take a measure which is what is not measured. It cannot be assessed. In that sense, if on the other side they are doing whatever they have to do with their filters and to make that public. If they do not want to put black hole in their filters, and maybe not to announce router to Moreira's net. Free will and the possibility that each one will come up to their decisions in accordance. Well, hypothetically, Google Cloud does not implement black hole. Fine.
Coloco isso em pautas, talvez até documento semelhante àquele que foi feito lá no tempo das communities, abrir isso em pauta para os demais colegas, colocarem sugestões fundamentadas, negócio...
Maybe to have structured suggestions, that is great. So I thank you for your attention.
Tem uma questão aqui colocada pelo Luiz Balbino sobre...
There is here a question. That would be interesting to have a specific route server for the black hole announcements. That was just an option that we were discussing initially, where we decided not to create a specific route server, or route service, better saying. Otherwise, it would be segmentating. Those that would be connected, they could use it, others don't. In a community like ours, it's difficult to have everyone's acceptance to specific announcements. We believe that they should connect in another route server with different policies. That would be even more complex. But technically speaking, fine.
Mais alguma questão, pessoal?
Anything else?
Os microfones estão abertos em frente ao palco.
The mics are open in front of the stage. Moreiras is quite inspired today to answer all questions.
Estou com sabonete à mão aqui.
Bom, vamos lá, Moreiras, para as perguntas da palestra de OpenCDN aí.
Questions regarding the OpenCDM lecture.
Uma pergunta foi do Lucas.
So the question is from Lucas. To small and medium-sized providers from São Paulo that are not able to reach it, wouldn't it be feasible to create an open CDN in the countryside of the state?
Não sei.
I don't know.
Boa pergunta.
Good question.
Provedores que
you providers should let us know.
O OpenCDN ele sempre está ligado a algum PTT.
OpenCDN is always related to some IXP. So that maybe could be feasible, but for that we have to check if there is any interest by providers in that PTT or in that region, if they want to connect. And then we have to see if there is any interest by the CDNs, if they want to place a cache for that public. It requires interest from both parts.
Eventualmente começar com a iniciativa. Então, primeiro passo importante é
So a first important step is to hear from providers.
o Internet Exchange de Campinas. Campinas está muito perto de São Paulo, né? Não acredito que seja o caso, mas Internet Exchange de
Internet exchange from Campinas, too close, São José do Rio Preto. There are many providers in that situation.
Entrar em contato com a gente. Aí a gente vai
If they get organized and they reach us, then we will study and talk to the CDNs.
colocar essa iniciativa lá e aí a gente vai estudar.
Don't you get interested in having that initiative and data centers and links and the feasibility?
Fazer ou não fazer, né? Se não houver viabilidade.
To do it or not, if there is interest or feasibility by the parts.
Vou fazer uma colocação, acho que mais para você e para o Júlio também.
It's a question to you and Julio. The initiative of OpenCDN to be born together with IX, couldn't that be a bit different?
Se essa iniciativa dos provedores nascer ali com, vamos instalar uma nova localidade.
If they say, let's install a new locality and OpenCDN together, what is your take on that?
Uma possibilidade interessante, Galvão.
That is an interesting possibility if both things are raised together. Well, from the region providers, sometimes they can get organized. They may feel like performing jointly business to be connected among themselves to reach NIC.br that is willing to help. That's not always possible, I understand, but NIC.br will see if that can fit our budget, technical possibilities. And we are going to do whatever we can to take IXP to a region where there is a group of providers and autonomous systems which are interested in traffic exchange. Especially because we are talking about a small IXP that does not require too much investment. Sometimes it's more like a location of technical resources that are not financial, that they may delay the processes than financial resources. But the process is the same. Interest by providers, organizations, those regional events that we are going to do, they are a good pathway for that. In São Paulo, it's easier. You have a closer contact to those who are closer. It's not difficult to talk with us at NIC.br workshops or to invite us to be at some cities and to be at some meeting providers. But in regions of São Paulo, it would be ideal if we could follow those regional IX forums and to bring this sort of demand and the local reality at those events, to be able to better know and to map that in a more realistic way.
Só comentando, as duas últimas localidades que nós ativamos foi
Boa Vista and Palmas were the two past locations to be activated. Boa Vista, the public ministry. So we are on that way, and they are going to be two cases of success.
estamos te ouvindo, Ricardo. Acho que tem que entrar no púlpito ali do dúvidas.
Opa! Entrou de novo.
O Ricardo tem que ir em cima do megafone, tá?
Se o Ricardo não entrar, será que eu posso dar continuidade?
Pode.
Nessa questão da OpenCDN, uma coisa que internamente, entre amigos, temos falado, né? Que, assim, o trabalho do CGI...
The CGI work or SAPTRO, I don't really know what is the exactly agency for that. That is much less technical and more bureaucratical and administrative than anything else.
CDN não é só cash.
CDN is not just cash.
Acerca de São José do Preto. É um X que existe de pouca volumetria.
That is existing IX of little volumetry.
Isso não vai justificar que uma empresa coloque 150 mil reais de servidor em qualquer lugar. Mas existe uma possibilidade, por exemplo.
But there is a possibility, for instance, of sharing transportation costs until São Paulo.
A sugestão aqui é uma próxima vertente do OpenCDN, entendeu? Sei lá, nessa hipótese, nessa questão levantada, um transporte, obviamente não flat, que vai ter um custo.
A non-flat transportation with a cost that will take that from São Paulo, from the large OTTs from São Paulo to the city of São José do Rio Preto in the countryside of the state.
Num transporte rateado, e esse rateio de custo acontecendo.
And that sharing of costs happening.
Não é só cash, é também entrega, né? Métodos de entrega, e envolveria isso também.
So that would involve different sorts of delivery.
Deixar muito claro.
And I have to make that very clear. That's not and should not be the interrelation of IX.
A questão é,
you should not do it, but throughout some other mechanisms, we should take those who are content providers. We are not going to take 1,000 servers to deploy it, but maybe that would be a way to improve relationships, and that transportation maybe could leave São Paulo and to reach that countryside city, as long as we share transportation costs, and maybe we can involve the cross-connection IXP infrastructure. That is a possibility to be considered. This is just a piece of suggestion. Maybe you could think over.
Douglas, eu vou pedir esclarecimento aqui. O que você vê?
Douglas, I need some additional explanation here. What would be the advantage for NIC.br to intermediate this process if there are some companies that already have telco circuit involvement and they are at several IXP failures and they could perform this sort of shared services? Why maybe a São José do Rio Preto provider could hire another provider from São Paulo that has that capacity to share content, and then in São Paulo they would choose their communities at the route server. Well, I want to have Netflix, Google, Facebook, or I want to get whoever is of their interest in the countryside. Why would NIC.br represent any additional gain to the gain if we would involve NIC.br? Well, there are two possibilities. First, that should be carried out in one L3, one single participant being connected to the São Paulo network with a confined IX that will break the flexibility of the operation and the handling of prefixes, especially if we work with those harmful companies that they do not consider all the prefixes available. If we consider L2 participation mechanisms, we are going to take each one of those SIs to São Paulo. And the suggestion is exactly the opposite, to take OTTs to those remote environments, and whoever participates will share costs. The option would be, we have 20 participants, so we take 40 VLANs to São Paulo, 40 new prefixes, 40 new sessions, and then we will end up increasing a volume which is already too large. Why don't we then attack them due to the reason why they moved to São Paulo? And my suggestion is to include NIC.br in the operation, exactly for the same reason as why IX.br do not work perfectly. Unfortunately, most small IXPs, they do not have that same feeling of collaborations as they should. Therefore, they do need someone to give additional support and to really push things up. I think that is available at the PCN roadmap, where we have started. Now it's on you. Keep going. This is my piece of suggestion in that sense. Let's start to place the initial seeds and let's keep running. The idea is not to overload, is to avoid overload in São Paulo and to take that traffic to São José do Rio Preto. We are not going to send servers to São José do Rio Preto. Maybe you do not like what I am saying, but I don't care. It's useless to send 200,000 BRLs in equipment to the countryside. If that is 100 gigabytes transportation, is it worthwhile sharing that cost? Yes, it is, but we do need someone to organize it. So if we would have NIC.br or IX there organizing all that messy environment, that would be ideal. And this is what I hope you can do. You just, give the first push ahead and then you let others keep going. Well, we cannot be liable for that. That's not a role to be performed by our company, but rather carriers and providers, they have to be responsible for this task. And NIC.br has to be neutral in this sort of relationship. It's not up to us to do it. We have to comply with our operational restrictions. We have to meet some constraints. There are things that we can do and others that we cannot. We have to be very careful as how we shape the operation. In my opinion, that should be done by the private initiative. Our focus of IXP has always been based on that private initiative. We are very transparent and we are open to accept everyone's connections. We cannot interfere. Everyone can do whatever they want. They may offer services within the IXP as long as they comply the basic norms and standards. Okay, thank you. Okay, we may talk about that again in 2 years. All right, thank you.
Tem Eduardo aí. Quer falar, Eduardo? Eu vi vocês falando antes aí.
I've heard you speaking about some activities that you're developing in Boa Vista and Roraima. Am I right?
Isso mesmo. Salvador,
Exactly.
explicar pouquinho aí para
Salvador, would you like to explain to Eduardo what we have there?
Então, antes do Salvador falar, o Salvador, seu áudio está mutado.
Well, Salvador, you are on mute. I am living in Boa Vista, and I don't have much contact with the providers yet. And I think that I'm kind of out of the loop. So please tell us what's going on in the city.
Sim. Bom dia a todos.
Good morning, everyone.
Então, o que aconteceu foi o seguinte, a localidade de Boa Vista, né, já tinha
Boa Vista had been implemented in IRNP.
veio a saber de uma iniciativa do Ministério Público.
And then we heard about an initiative of the public authorities of creating an IPPP for public authorities. What happened is we talked to them, determined, and we refined the possibility of taking over the public ministry area because it's of no one's interest, especially to IXPR, to have structures which are not connected in the same area. Well, they were very receptive. They accepted the structure by NIC.br, and now we are in the process, something which is going to be necessary to expand that traffic system, which is optic fiber for connection. We are just waiting for them of having optic fiber available to us. We have already measured all the infrastructure of hosting, energy, environment. And probably we will have it all set up in the public prosecution office. So there is a point of presence, and if it exists, how can I connect that? How can I find it? It's in our portal. Boa Vista, it is a location available in our portal, and there are two actions there. Contact in the portal, responsible for the port of presence at RNP. You contact them, show your interest, and at the same time, you ask to get to be compliant in our portal with IXP. Information about the new PIX is not available. We are still part of the bureaucratic process. But if you want to know more details, please contact us, either myself or Salvador, and we'll be able to help you in the next steps. Yes, I would like to talk to you. Maybe I can be a supporter and help you somewhat. The company that I support, they help you. It does help us, but we can talk together. And maybe we can do something here in Boa Vista to collaborate. Great. Thank you very much for supporting our project. It's always good to hear that. Thank you.
Sobre essa questão de criação de PIX aí, tem comentário do Lima.
There is a comment here by Lima.
Que já tem uma solicitação pendente dele aí.
There is a pending request in Bahia to become a PIX.
Solicitações antigas.
Yes, there are some old requests.
Assim, as empresas têm interesse em
Companies are interested in developing and having APX in the different localities, and you can contact us. We are going to see the conditions and review things to see whether technically the place provided is appropriate, the number of participants, depending on the locality. Salvador is a place that we really should consider. You can talk to me, to Galvão, Salvador. The new one created in Salvador was by Telxa. It is a strategic point, as they have underwater cables and they bring connectivity to the region. There are many companies that are housed in their data center. Another thing here, it was in the OpenCDN. How do you select data center in the locality? It is based on technical geographic elements, primarily considering OpenCDN. OpenCDN, we are simply intermediate. We just operate third-party equipment. We cannot simply say we are going to host you in a center with host you in a center without minimum requirements. They are expected for all those that operate. So that's exactly it. I don't know whether Salvador or Moreiras will have anything else to say about that. Well, in addition to technical requirements, and what you said is perfect, the data center has to respect with the minimum requirements and have the appropriate technical conditions. And then we have cost.
Eu vou dar exemplos em Manaus e em Brasília.
In Manaus and in Brasilia, we had some cooperation agreements with data center. Up to a certain capacity, OpenCDN did not pay data center in exchange of the AS. Using OpenCDN. But in both cases, they were agreements which are really collaborations by the companies involved, the institutions involved, that wanted to encourage internet in the region. They are spending much more resources with that, providing to us space and energy, remote hands, and they are benefiting from the use of BCDN. If we just got it down to the point, they are donating the resources. Much more than having any advantage. In Manaus, I can tell you, because we are operating and we have a full contract with them, which is a collaboration with Bmall stores. Brasilia, I have no reference to make because we're still signing up the contract. And we can tell you later what is our data center partner in Brasilia. If we cannot get an agreement of cooperation like that, then we can go into a commercial data center. It's important to emphasize that because of the pandemic and the difficulty to move around and all of that, we haven't activated the PIX Bmall. We are going to create it The devices which are there are going to be connected to a network system that we are going to have once the conditions resume to its normality. There are some restrictions because of lack of semiconductors, so that's lagging behind. Good point. Bemol, in addition to including OpenCDN and resources for OpenCDN to operate, they are always giving a PTT and N. I believe that most probably it will be possible to have one more PIX operating there. As Julio has just said, I would like to emphasize, and as Julio pointed out in his presentation on Wednesday, he talked about the next location, Porto Velho, Rio Branco. So I would like to invite, including Macapá, all of you, please come to us. Please let us know you are interested so that we can expand our focus, supporting the locality, supporting the local providers.
Só lembrando, eu sei que a região norte ela é extremamente vasta e é super difícil.
The North region in Brazil is very large. It's a large territory. It's difficult to gather everyone in a single place. But one of the first regional IX forum that we will hold will be in Manaus. So maybe Rio Branco providers can get to Manaus. It will be wonderful if you could come and join us and be there. That would be great. If not possible, we can always try to promote remote participation. I don't know whether it's going to be possible or not. If you could join us in the regional events, that would be wonderful. If not, we always have virtual meetings and we can do that with you. So please contact us. So Galvão saying Rio Branco is 3,000 kilometers from Manaus. Wow, geography classes. Just nearby. But based on what Guilherme Polito has just said, speaking of plans to the North region, any plans for São Luís in Maranhão? Because this is a new location. We've been there for 3 years, if I'm not mistaken. And there are 2 installed PIX in São Luís. This is what we currently have in the region.
Exato. Nós faltamos 3 cidades, o Rubens comentou aqui de Palmas. Palmas fica na região norte, nós ativamos lá recentemente.
We have.
É a nossa localidade mais recente aí.
This is the most recent place where we are.
Só voltando um pouquinho na questão do OpenCDN aí,
Just going back to the OpenCDN, and please correct me if I'm wrong. The OpenCDN is an initiative that was created to promote a higher adherence to the program outside the main hub between Rio and São Paulo, Rio de Janeiro and São Paulo. But the opposite may also take place. All participants efforts, providers to comply with IX, they have shown that this is a place where the CDN may be hosted, and they see that as a possibility, don't they? We get a bit frustrated because we may have a site where we would like to have that deployed, but with no guarantee. And we even inactivate some sites, and that effort by providers, that could be a motivator for choosing implementing the CDN project. Every time that we want to implement an open CDN, they all ask, what are the connected ACNs? This is the first question to be asked. We have a ready-made script to generate information to share with them. Well, in fact, they would like to know more. What are the ASNs that will comply with, that are really willing to participate, that will show some sort of adherence? We do not have that information in advance. So ourselves and CDN, we have to estimate that considering the IXP numbers. And I guess that the Open CDN project tries to motivate the growth of IXPs, but not only. It also wants to decentralize infrastructure and to take those main traffic generators closer to users to improve the quality, the user's quality perception. Without just fostering IXP growth, I would say this is a type of more logical and organized arrangement of internet infrastructure in the country. This is exactly what we were discussing before with Mariano and Claudine in a panel. There is to improve general quality, and we have a number of infrastructures deficiencies in Brazil. We have to improve it somehow.
Só complementando, que eu acho que assim, acho que é importante a gente levar em consideração.
We should take into consideration that sometimes that structure and content availability by companies is part of a complex process. And for instance, what Globo is developing by their own initiative, they make available contents and a great amount of PPTs. And if they have a very fast return on it when they install servers, and immediately they can serve providers who are connected locally. But there are times, if you get companies like Akamai, Facebook, or others, the minimum to be installed to make that content available is not a small infrastructure. And that is a constraint to make us understand that we are able to replicate that solution easily. We have to consider costs, management, but we might also face some technical difficulties.
Eu gostaria de estender essa pergunta do Diego aqui do Georges Rochas, que ele comentou se o OpenCDN poderia vir para
OpenCDN, could OpenCDN reach Mato Grosso do Sul?
com certeza deveria.
That was a question asked before.
Tirar pouquinho do Moreiras, queria jogar essa bola para o Rodrigo. Se ele quisesse comentar aí qual que é o.
Could you please, Rodrigo, make some comments about the OpenCDN roadmap?
Então, a gente chegou, né, a intenção é pelo menos ter uma localidade em cada região.
Well, the goal is to have at least one site in a region of the country. Mato Grosso, Federal Capital, Brasília, all that central region of the country.
Parte de infraestrutura foi Brasília por enquanto.
But the only one that has a full structure, it's Brasília. For other sites, such as Mato Grosso do Sul, that's not yet in our radar.
A justificativa para colocar em Brasília foi tentar tornar Brasília hub ali para a região centro-oeste.
And Brasília, we attempted to turn Brasília into a hub to this region.
Só destacar que dentro aqui do NIC, do CGI, né, quer dizer, existe grupo de trabalho que está
within the CGI and NIC.br, there is a working group that is monitoring, suggesting, and giving some indications regarding next steps.
Que decidimos, né, quer dizer, existem outras esferas aí.
There are some other spheres that are involved, as that is a very relevant project from a national perspective to the internet. There are several forefronts to reach the decision. CGI, NIC.br, CDNs, offices, providers from the region.
Acho que vale dizer que o OpenCDN é projeto.
We should also mention that OpenCDN requires high investments. It's an expensive operation.
Do ponto de vista de equipamentos,
It requires investment for equipment. CapEx is high, and the OPEX, proportionally speaking, the OPEX of OpenCDN is even higher than the CAPEX. So that is a project that requires special care at NIC.br. We have to look after our budget restraints, and all these new capabilities, they have to reach maturity, and they have to reach even results and to guarantee such an initiative. OPEX of IXBR today, part of that is supported by what we charge from our participants. Hello and good morning. As you are talking about OpenCDN,
uma questão na hora que o Moreira estava falando sobre o OpenCDN, eu acabei não perguntando lá, mas assim,
I have a question still about OpenCDN. I deployed IX Manaus. There was a transportation available with a really low costs in relation to IP link. And I would just have to cover IX costs, which was quite low in relation to the benefits acquired.
Não é uma prática que é recomendada por vocês, a ideia, mas a gente sabe que São Paulo enfim, é o X que todo mundo quer.
But we know that São Paulo is the IX that everyone wants to be connected.
A gente vê que para a gente se conectar tem custo.
And to the OpenCDN, we know that there are costs.
Ali uma taxa, sim, valor por mega.
It's not really a tax, but a amount that we pay per bits. Will that impact IX growth without this cost, or maybe the OpenCDN project is aiming that one day we'll have such a little cost that customers will not have to worry about covering that cost? I would like to hear your future perspective. As far as I understood, that project has not yet been paid, but what to expect from now on? In the past, small providers, for those smaller providers, that might not be so attractive yet. I'll try to answer to your question. If we consider a long run, what to expect from those sites? That the local IXP will be developed together with the community in such a way that will become attractive to OpenCDNs to be installed by themselves without requiring the OpenCDN project support. The IX will be so mature with such a high number of participants that will allow to deploy my own structure, and I'll be able to make that investment because that will be worthwhile. But right now we cannot cover all these expenses. How is that in our real world? Well, anytime we deploy it, you have to wait to feed the cast, and in the outside, in the output, I mean, you have the cast content, which is copied once, and several users will access that content several times. In practical terms, that multiply factor is between 3 and 4. The band that is supplied to our users, they will require at least half of that band to feed the cast. If we are here talking about cost sharing, we are saying that we will get a layer 2 price of a certain site until São Paulo and IP traffic, and divide that amount by 3 or even by 4. That will depend on the CDN efficiency or the number of participants. The more the number of participants, more efficient that CDN will be. You are going to get the traffic price divided by 4, and that will be more or less the price that will be paid for the OpenCDN CDN sharing. You are not able to reach anything lower than that. By increasing the number of participants and a higher traffic consumption, CDNs become more efficient, and you are also able to feed those circuits thanks to a higher volume and still pay a cheaper price, because you will be purchasing in the wholesale kind of speaking. And the only possibility to reach 0 is to have CDNs installed by themselves at that site. For example, you see Brasilia, where there are some CDNs already deployed there without our interference, such as Akamais, Global. Why Maybe others are not deployed yet because they didn't find an appropriated data center, maybe because they cannot afford it, but it's not very far away to be closed if that has been closed too many. So OpenCDN might push the Brasilia IXP, and maybe in a little time, CDNs will be able to do that by themselves. This is exactly what we expect. That might take a bit longer in Manaus, as their infrastructure situation is a bit different. They haven't got enough data centers and broadband internet links. That is a problem. We have faced several obstacles. They have longer-term contract services. Their circuit capacity is quite low. We have a number of problems, and to reach an infrastructure condition that the CDN by itself wants to place an infrastructure afforded by them with all the technical and financial availability, that may take a bit longer if we ever reach that time. I hope so. Okay.
Great. Thank you very much. And I will keep on talking about OpenCDN for people to join us so that cost can get down to all of us. But you see, Eduardo, something really important to all of us is to have your feedback as well. Because if you tell me, well, 2.25 in megabit in Manaus, in a situation in which we are investing, because it's not a cost sharing, right? We are really investing. We are not cost sharing. We are presenting a subsidy. If you say 250 is too high and there are market alternatives which are more attractive, then we can look once again, because if you share that with us, we might be wondering, well, maybe we're doing something wrong. Maybe the market is being ultra efficient much more than we are. So let's see where we are getting it wrong. I don't know whether this is the case, but if so, if we are charging something which is different from what the market expects, we can look closer and try to understand where we are making a mistake and why is the marketing being able to do something differently from what we are doing, right? Still, investing, right? With no return on investment. Thank you very much. Well, we are right on time to close. I would like to thank all of you. It was really wonderful to see people here in the Gather Town, and we are here talking. It's kind of a collective talk, isn't it? An informal conversation, and maybe it's the best we can do. Milton, anything from your side? Any closing remarks? He's not in São Paulo. I don't know how your internet is, but please tell us. Yes, I'm sorry. It hasn't been easy to follow. We never know what kind of internet we have access to in different places in Brazil. Really interesting, the stool, isn't it? The event was extremely useful, and we hope we can really have changed the best scenario in Brazil and what we can see and what people should do. using the tools that we have shared and the information that ICT providers have given to us, especially about IPv6, and 39 to 49% of the regions have IPv6. So we see the community still has a lot to do to have better internet. I would like to thank everyone, all of you who have been with us interacting. We count on your collaboration in the process of internet needs so that you can have mix to match possibilities and be listed in the locations where you are represented. So just open geolocation and run a test, and the next day your name will be available for all of those who will be testing it. And we will see more in the locality. We are trying to provide better internet. It's a large country, broad opportunities all over. Different situations compared to the south and southeast of Brazil. I would like to thank for IX Forum 15, or the 15th IX Forum Better, and hope to see you in person next year, end of October. It's always better to interact face-to-face, but this tool is also giving us a very good solution. A virtual environment for our interaction. But of course, it would be great if we could get together and have some beer. So see you next year. Thank you very much for participating. Thank you, Milton. The platform will still be open. You can interact, communicate, and exchange your opinions. See you next year. Thank you very much, everyone. In the YouTube, you can see also our assessment form, so please give us a feedback. Thank you very much.